Hey, I want to start out by saying, hey, I'm thankful and appreciative for everybody who supports the content, everybody who watches, comments, who interacts, who leaves super chats, who do all of those things. I'm very appreciative. I'm very grateful. Thank you all. I really do mean that. I'm grateful and hey, a salute to you all. Hey, as always, we do attorney reactions and we are going to pivot and talk about our good old friend Tiffany Henyard. Now, before I even get into this video, I know y'all love the Tiffany Henyard content, but there is other content, and I invite you all to check that out. You'll see a few cards on the top of this video, and also check out the video at the end of this video that'll be up on the screen. Definitely more content on interesting stories. And if you got a story, feel free to hit your boy up, official debtfreedad@gmail.com, and we may be able to use it and react to it and talk about it on the platform. Now, this story is interesting because it's really not so much about Tiffany Henyard. It's about where her prosecution is going to go. What is going to be the focus of the Northern District of Illinois' U.S. Attorney's Office now that they have an interim U.S. attorney who has been appointed by President Trump and who looks to be potentially getting the nod to be the permanent U.S. attorney for the Northern District of Illinois. So let's just take a rewind back to see what was the last bit of information we got from the news related to Tiffany Henyard and her federal investigation. Then we're going to pivot and talk about the implications with this new interim U.S. attorney. Let's dive in.
Well, there is new evidence the FBI isn't allowing Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard's dramatic defeat at the ballot box from slowing their corruption investigation.
WGN Investigates has obtained copies of new subpoenas that show the investigation is widening. Ben Bradley has more.
We've obtained a copy of the subpoena, which is dated Election Day and was hand-delivered by FBI agents to Dalton Village officials late Thursday. It targets a development in Dalton that we've previously reported on.
I'm happy to announce that these two Black African-American business owners, y'all give it up for them.
Now, we always got to take some intermittent pauses because we know how YouTube is. Hey, on its face, this is dope. Hey, you see Black business owners starting a business in a Black community that'll bring jobs, economic development, all good things on its face. Shout out to the business owners who look to get this venture started.
Business owners, yeah. Tiffany and Patrick, they're about to put up an upscale, sit-down food restaurant.
Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard appeared to back the development, attending a groundbreaking in 2023. But when the 5-story restaurant and entertainment venue was built, its owner says Henyard tried to tank the project.
She has destroyed lives because she's not doing her job.
Tiffany Kamara told WGN Investigates Henyard's boyfriend previously owned the land and she thinks regretted selling it once he saw the building complete.
Now, real quick, we talked about in other videos how stupid this is. Let's just recap. When you have a parcel of land and you're selling it, one, people buying your land are going to expressly, most people, not all, but 99% of the time, people are forthcoming when they ask or you inquire about what are you going to do with this property. People will tell you, I'm building a park, a daycare. People like to talk about what it is that they're doing. So as the seller of the land, this just goes to show how not bright they were. They essentially had all the cards to determine, hey, what is going to go on with this land. They had all the chips were on their side of the table. They had all the leverage in the world. They could have, one, asked what is your idea and intent with this actual property. Two, they could have went to the city and actually looked to see what the land was zoned as. Is the land zoned for residential, commercial? If it's zoned for commercial, you can charge a higher price. Three, if you were able to actually get an understanding of what it is that they were going to do, instead of just selling them the land outright, you could have sold them lease for the land to allow them to use it. Or you could have sold them the land on the condition that, hey, I'll sell it to you for this particular price, plus a 3%, 4%, 2% equity interest in your company indefinitely, or for the next 20 years, or for the next 10 years. There were a gazillion contractual ways to take advantage of it. They just sold it, and it was like, oh, they building something up there that's going to make money. ridiculous.
The project's potential.
What do you think the delays were all about?
They wanted to take over the building.
It took a lawsuit and a judge's order to get the Henyard administration to finally issue a needed liquor license in January.
There would have been no way legally possible that they could have taken over the building after they destroyed, I think it was a dilapidated veterinarian on this property, and built this restaurant. Just real quick, just legally, even if, let's say there was a breach of contract, even if there was some error in contract, they couldn't just take hold of the property. Even if something were to happen where the courts would say, you know what, you are entitled to this property. You're not just going to get the property with this big new shiny establishment already built on it. No, there has to be a reasonableness here. The court always focuses on equity. You sold the property for whatever, $100,000. Just use it as an example. If he sold the property for $100,000, they built this $6 million property on it. Now the property value is $6.5 million. The court's not going to say, yeah, well, even though the other party messed up, let's just give you the land to make you whole. No, they put $6 million into this land. So there's no way they could actually obtain the land. I mean, maybe they could obtain it by adverse possessions, but that would take 7, 8, 9 years, depending on what the law is in the state of Illinois. So it was actually just a dumbass plan all the way around.
Now, 9 months after the FBI first served wide-ranging subpoenas on both South Suburban government's Henyard runs, FBI agents went back to Village Hall. Their newest subpoena focuses solely on the restaurant and entertainment venue development. It demands inspection, code enforcement, and licensing records, and specifically seeks communication between Village of Dalton personnel, including Henyard's boyfriend, Kamal Woods.
And I know they probably want to know how this guy acquired this property, just because on his face, it looked like, I don't know what his ends and his financial background look like, but they looking kind of like, bruh, how'd you acquire this property to begin with what funds? So that's probably going to be the heart of it, but that's what they are looking at. Now, we're going to take a quick pivot. We're going to look at the newly appointed interim United States attorney for the Northern District of Illinois. And it's actually going to be an interesting story. Let's dive in. Let's talk about it. Let's see what's going on.
So the top federal law enforcement position in Northern Illinois tonight is on the verge of being vacant no longer. NBC 5 News has learned that a nominee to be the permanent U.S. attorney here will soon be announced 2 years after the city last had one. Investigative reporter Chuck Gowdy joining us now with new details on this. Chuck.
Steph and I have several justice sources telling me tonight that Andrew Boutros has been tapped to become Chicago's next United States attorney. While it hasn't been publicly announced, and especially these days in Washington when things are subject to change without notice, Boutros's name is said to have been sent to the White House by Peoria Republican Congressman Darren LaHood, who was in charge of the search.
The law has always been complicated and complex, but the world in which we live in, I think, has gotten more complicated with the passage of time. And
okay, real quick. So let's talk a little bit about Boutros. Now, this is going to be interesting. He has an interesting background. So we're going to see how that background is impacted. What we already know is, hey, the feds is still watching. Clearly, they sent a brand new subpoena that was signed the day of the election, and it was served the day after the election. In 2007, Boutros was hired by U.S. Attorney Patrick Fitzgerald to work as an assistant U.S. attorney for the Northern District of Illinois. He relocated to Chicago for the job and started work in January of 2008. He was a key member of the Financial Crimes and Special Prosecution Unit at the office. Over the course of his nearly 8-year career there, Boutros prosecuted notable cases involving white-collar crimes, fraud, laundering, drug trafficking, cyber crimes, and more. Some of his most notable work involved the prosecutions for individuals involved in the Silk Road online black market. He assisted the prosecution of the founder of the Silk Road, Ross Ulbricht, who received a life sentence after conviction. He also led the prosecution and conviction of the individual referred to as Silk Road's most prolific online drug dealer. Boutros was also the prosecutor in what we know as the largest food fraud in history, Honeygate. The first phase of the law enforcement operation involved individuals and companies that have been involved in the importation of cheap and occasionally contaminated honey from China. The food fraud and criminal anti-dumping duty case led to an $80 million in losses. So, what does this tell me about him? He is specialized in fraud and white-collar crime. More importantly, he has actual substantial ties to the community. He is a first-generation American. I believe his parents are from Egypt. Now, he is not from Illinois. He's not a Chicago guy, but he moved there very early on in his career. So, hey, he has those ties to the community. He is definitely going to be excited and intrigued by this case, because this is a case that essentially hit home for him. After his time in prosecution, he actually went into academia and into private practice. Let's go and jump back in, see a little bit more about him, and we'll close it out.
With technology.
Andrew Boutros on a video for his former law firm where he was regional chair of white-collar criminal defense. He is now with the law firm of Shook, Hardy & Bacon with offices in Chicago and Washington, D.C., where he also handles government investigations. Legal sources tell NBC Chicago that Boutros will soon be named by the Justice Department here in Washington to become interim U.S. Attorney in the Northern District of Illinois and nominee for the permanent top federal prosecutor's job here.
Okay, so hey, new top prosecutor on the scene. We already know the investigation is moving forward, and there is nothing more sweet, nothing more satisfying if you're a prosecutor than being able to prosecute a politician, an entertainer, someone with means, money, access, motive. Those are cases that can elevate your career to the next level. Even for someone who's a mayor of a small town like the village of Dalton, there's still some credibility there. There's still some appeal to that investigation. Typically, cases are prosecuted and evaluated by the offense, how much time left we got to prosecute it, how much time is left on the statute of limitations, what the damage was to the government. So if it's a small fraud case, like real talk, $100,000, $200,000 might not be worth my time to investigate. But if it's $10,000, but isn't a politician, we've seen this before. Politicians getting small ass bribes, but they end up getting federally prosecuted because those cases are sexy for prosecutors, and we want to show an image. The government wants to show an image of, hey, these people are not above the law. So you all let me know what y'all think in the comments. I think his background is indicative of someone who is going to be chomping at the bit to push this matter through to the end. Now, when will it all play out? I don't know, but I know this case will definitely have his blessing. They will definitely move forward with it if there is evidence for them to move forward with and see charges. If you enjoyed this video, check out what's on screen. I'm going to put up the top 5 federal charges that Tiffany Henyard could potentially be charged with. Y'all have a good one. Take care. Peace.